Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am recording episodes again. So, yes, spooky season is around the corner. Isn't this fucking exciting? Yeah. So, I am back to be recording episodes. So, I know I take a little break here and there. It's kind of needed. So, today's episode is going to be fucking juicy. Okay. So, couple things, little housekeeping. Make sure you guys follow me on TikTok. At savagehealing_AF. So make sure you guys follow along because I am starting to post some really juicy content over there. Okay. So make sure you do that. And if you have a story or something that you want to share or something that you would like me to share on the podcast as far as a personal story, comments, feedback, make sure that you send me an email. The email will be in the show notes as far as that. So yeah, just make sure and then subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am uploading even more videos and shorts onto my YouTube channel. I know that's been a little bit of a hiatus. Trying to, rearrange my schedule, and some things are changing for 2026 when it comes to my schedule so that I would have more flexibility with that. So yeah, I'm excited to really just get videos done. And cause podcasting and TikToking is my jam. As you probably can tell, those are my jams. So yeah, because a lot of things have happened this year and I'm going to share even more of it. So if this is your first time listening, or if you've been a long-time listener, before I get into the juicy topic today, you're probably wondering name change or why I have shifted and pivoted as far as my niche and what I'm talking about. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this episode today. Okay. So welcome to Savage Healing. And I'm going to share why I burned the Rare Mama down and everything down to rebuild myself. So if you've been listening for a long time since the beginning, I started this podcast as an outlet to help other moms out there with special needs children. But as time kind of went on and some of the things that I have experienced in different things, and knowing that I wanted to make a bigger impact with this podcast and make a bigger impact on social media, because I have grown one account, which is the CAT Scan Guru account, where I talk about all the things in my industry as far as a CT tech. Like, that podcast and those social channels have just skyrocketed. So I knew that I had a purpose for more, and I wanted to really hone in on something that I'm very passionate about. Not that special needs parenting isn't something that I am not passionate about, because I am, as a special needs mother myself. But I needed to have something where I can help other women that have experienced the things that I have experienced and the things that I have gone through, not only in childhood, relationships, just, having an absent father in, when I was growing up. I wanted to make a bigger impact. So why the Rare Mama had to evolve? And it's because I have been called to step up to a higher level. And there are layers of why I've decided to start and really be my higher self and step into this next level where, yes, it's going to be bold, but it's going to be nurturing and with empathy, but I am going to call you out on your shit on this fucking podcast. Okay. So I really did a lot of just inner work, and my inner work is still in progress. Okay. I'm still a work in progress, and there's a lot of things that I have experienced. So, and I'm going to tell you why this pivot means so much to me and the reason why I decided to do it. Okay. So the first thing you're probably wondering is, what does Savage Healing mean? So this is fierce compassion and shadow alchemy. So Savage Healing is when we take that old life that we had that doesn't serve a purpose, those relationships that don't serve us, that are toxic, they are damaging, they are draining our energy, emptying our cup. It is just, putting everybody first instead of you, and to fill your own cup. We're burning all that fucking shit down. Okay. The saying goes, if you want the life that you want to live and the life you deserve and the life you dream of, you need to burn your old one down. It is going to cost you your old life to get there. And that's exactly why I decided to burn the Rare Mama down and rise above the ashes to Savage Healing, which we're doing it just in a phenomenal way. Okay. So it is about fierce compassion. We're doing shadow alchemy. We're doing shadow work. We're doing inner work. We are going to take all your fucking excuses and all the victimhood and all the fucking trauma dumping, and we're going to burn all that shit, and we're going to rise above the ashes so that you have healthy boundaries. You know how to manage when things trigger you, and making sure that you have more self-trust, more self-worth as a woman so that you can have the life that you want, have the relationships that you want, and be in healthy positions in life. Okay. Now, I'm going to share my own personal story of transformation and why I created this space. Okay. Because this space is very sacred for me. Now, I come from, a background where I did not have a father growing up. My father was absent. Okay. And I was the product of a child from, that my parents were divorced when I was very, very young. And my father was here and there, but he decided not to have an active role while I was growing up. Okay. And still to this day, there is still no relationship there. And it's one of the things that has really created a lot of shadows for me and a lot of internal turmoil because I always thought it was my fault. I always thought that I did something wrong. I would always try to reach out. I was chasing my dad. I spent summers with my grandmother every single year and tried to communicate with him, trying to be just accepted and validated as his daughter because I am the only one on that side of the family. I am the only daughter on that side of the family. And I can distinctly remember there was a period of time where he says, oh, I'm going to take you out to the water park, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to pick you up at this time on this day. It was the very next day. Okay. And I remember I woke up early, I had all my stuff and I kept looking out the window. I kept, saying, okay, he said he was going to be here at this time, what's going on? And he never came. And I remember I was 13 years old at that time and I was devastated and like I had done something wrong and I just couldn't figure out what I did wrong. Did I say something wrong? Did I do that? And naturally, because of that traumatic experience and those shadows and just those fears, it has progressed and continues to show up in everything that I do in life. And how those shadows mirror itself to me is in every romantic relationship that I've had, even in my marriage, that shadow would continue to haunt me because if I would do something, I wasn't good enough, I didn't do enough, I stayed quiet so I wouldn't rock the boat. I would chase people. I would, try to get a lot of validation and a lot of, just reassurance because I have that anxious attachment style. And I knew that I couldn't continue living like this. I knew that this is ruining me. And so my divorce was kind of like the tip of the iceberg. And this was back in 2019. Where I knew things had to change. And I went to therapy, I got help, and to just manage going through a divorce and being a single parent to special needs kids, which is no fucking cakewalk if you really think about it. And I was terrified of dating and I was terrified of putting myself out there because the playing field, of course, has fucking changed. I mean, have you guys gone out there and fucking look at the dating scene? It's a goddamn shit show. So the thing is that I had 2 relationships post-divorce. And I can tell you my view and just the way I look at relationships now from those 2 relationships has really made me have stronger non-negotiables and stronger boundaries and making sure that my standards stay high because I'm not going to accept just only the bare minimum and me being the only one showing up for the relationship every single time. Now, how I created this space for women is, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it because I want to thank this person for really making me step out of my comfort zone and really just devoting myself to creating this space for women. You have helped me grow in a way that I never thought I could. So, without trying to get too emotional, I'm going to explain how I created this space. 5 months ago, well, actually, let me back up. It's been a year and a half there was somebody that I met because I decided to put myself out there. My prior relationship, which was the first relationship that I had post divorce, I was with that person for a year. It just did not work out. And because he was very avoidant and he needed to do a lot of healing and a lot of work on himself because he really couldn't show up in the relationship like I needed to. Because when you mirror to somebody their shadows and things that they need to work on because they have to step up to be a better man for you so they can really step up and be present in the relationship and making sure they show up for the relationship and give you back what you need out of that relationship. When they can't do that, they run from it, and he ended the relationship. Okay. So, and then he tried to come back for another opportunity and tried to get a second chance. I gave him an opportunity to say, okay, I need to see some changed behavior. Well, that didn't happen. So I said, no, I'm sorry. I can't do it. Cannot do it. So fast forward, I was single for about about a year or two. In 2024, this was last year, I went ahead and decided to put myself out there. And so I had met somebody, and this was in March. I think it was like mid-March of 2024. Honestly, when we first met up and let me back up. So when we first met, so we were hanging out and everything. And one of the things that I felt when I met this person, I didn't feel butterflies. And of course you're going to say, Karina, you should. No, I didn't. I didn't feel butterflies. You know what I felt? I felt peace. I felt like I had come home. I felt like, damn, I can really be myself with this person and I don't have to fake anything. Because sometimes, I had to, when I was dating people. And that's not the person that I am. And that's not the person that I want to be. So, and it was a level of safety that I had never experienced in my entire life. Never. I had no idea that even existed in anybody. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, I feel safe around, my closest friends that are very dear to me and my family. However, when it comes to being in a relationship with somebody, I had never had that level of safety where I didn't have to fear anything. And I didn't have to overthink anything. And I said, okay, this is a very weird place for me to be because all I've known through my entire life is chaos. Okay. So stick with me on this story. So as it kind of went a little bit deeper, I started to feel the distance and started to feel like something's not right here. And so I would question it. And the story was, I wasn't thinking about a relationship. I'm falling on hard times and money and work and this and that. And so, I really need to get a grip on my life. And so because this person was having such a hard time, I felt in my heart to do something nice for him and to say, hey, this is saying that I care about you. And so what I did is I got all of his favorite stuff. And I know I had explained this in a prior podcast episode, but I'm going to tell the story again. I knew one of his favorite movies. And so I had gotten like this figurine of the character out of that movie. And I got some of his favorite candy, and I just got some things, and I had wrote down like some, open when letters because that's something that I had done for somebody before. And so what I did is I decided to just surprise him and just drop it off at his house, like at his front door. Well, that didn't turn over so well, and that backfired in my face, where I got this really mean text message and saying that how could I do that? This overwhelmed him, and don't ever do that again, and don't come by my house ever again. And I'm not going to continue this any further. Okay. So I heavily apologized. I said I didn't have any ill intentions. I was not being, I'm sorry I disrespected your space, and I did not mean to overwhelm you. I was just trying to do something nice for you is all. So the impression that I got is that he had not had someone do something nice for him. And the response that I got is that, well, why would you do something like that? I would only expect that from somebody I had been in a relationship for a while. Me, I don't operate on timelines. Like if I feel I want to give you something nice, and even if it's a coworker, okay, I just do it because I'm a kind person. And when you put kindness out there, you get that back. So I was a little hurt by that because I'm like, well, fuck. I'll never do this again for anybody. So as time passed, we did not talk for 5 months. Okay. And, and then me, because I was thinking I did reach out to him and he did respond and we did meet up again because for some reason, like my brain and I would visualize like we would reconnect again. But I was telling myself, oh, my brain was like, oh, you're kind of crazy. But somewhere, just my intuition and my gut was like, you all are going to meet again. Like this isn't over. And so we did, but it really was kind of like in the same position. Okay. And then he had some tragedy that happened and I was just trying to be there for him and just, if you need something, are you okay? Have you eaten? Are your kids okay? Things like that. And then a kind of a turning point was, I think it was like late January, February, where I saw him again. And I was like, okay, well, it's been like another 4 months since I've seen you. And he's like, what the fuck? He goes, why would I do something like that? And I said, well, obviously you didn't want me around. And so he wanted to, and I had specifically told him, I was like, listen, I'm not going to get involved unless you really want to have a serious relationship with me. And that's the path we went on. And we were serious. Like people knew, it was public to people. It was public on social media, minus TikTok, which that's a story for another day. And, I really felt comfortable with this person. I felt safe. I felt secure. I felt at home. We worked out together. Like I miss having a gym partner. Don't get me wrong. And I really I felt so comfortable. And I'll tell you, like I would get off work. I would be over there. I had stuff at his house. Like I practically lived there almost. Okay. In a nutshell, but then I noticed the same pattern where he would pull away. He wasn't talking as much. He wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing that. He was always posting on TikTok, of course, but it was less and less with me. And then I'm at work, bombshell drops, and I get a voice text, not a conversation to my face, not a phone call, not a FaceTime. It was a voice text. I can't do this anymore. I have to work. I'm in serious debt. I have to focus on myself and take care of me. It's just going to be me and the kids' work. And then when I went to go pick up my stuff a couple of weeks later, which derailed me, and I tried everything I could not to show any emotion at work. Because I was at work, I was working 12 hours and I needed to just be there. He couldn't even look at me in my face when he gave me my stuff. And I was so angry because he at least could have explained why. But then again, people are not going to give you closure. Closure is something that you create, right? And as time went on, my anger got the best of me. Yes, I sent angry messages. Yes, I was angry, but never once did I ever speak ill of him to anyone or on social media because it's not something that you do. And I know a lot of people do that. It's not something that I do. Okay. Now, fast forward, of course, this person blocked me on all social platforms. Okay. Probably has my number blocked. I have no idea. And frankly, I don't care. But I come to find out from somebody I know, here we are, October, and he's in a new relationship. So when I found out, and I found this out probably a month or two ago, that he is in a new relationship, considering that our relationship ended in June and now it's October. So there was not a very long stretch of time. But what I kind of noticed is that this is a pattern for him. And that got me thinking, you know what? This is the same thing that a lot of women go through, where they are stuck. They don't know what to do. They have self-awareness, but they're still stuck. They have relationships with, people who are unemotionally available. They're not emotionally available. They haven't gotten over their ex. They jump into new relationships when their shadows and their fears get mirrored to them because they have to level up to be a better person. Let me say this, and this is why I created this space. Your shadows and the inner work and the healing work that you need to do is always going to continue to follow you until you face your shit and start fixing your shit. Another person is not going to heal you. That is your responsibility. The shit that you need to heal, somebody else can't do because that's your responsibility. Okay? People should not be getting involved with other people and hurting them if you yourself have not dealt with your fears, your shadows, and your triggers. Your triggers you can manage. If you are not in the space to love somebody all the way through and be in that relationship 100%, you should not be in a relationship. You should be by yourself. So going through that hurt, that pain, knowing all this and knowing everything that I need to know. And of course, I've told people, please do not share any more information about him, because all that does is it reopens the wound for me. Okay. What I decided to do is I said, I can really help women who are in the same spot that I am in, that have this fear and have this father wound, because it all stems from that on why my relationships have been the way they have. It's because of that, because they are the mirror of the acceptance and the validation that I'm looking for from my own father. My stepdad was that person. He was that person that was the glue. He was the person that, yes, you are enough. Yes, if that person is going to be a fucking idiot, let them go. You cannot have both. You cannot sit there and chase somebody and then expect them to love you wholeheartedly. He would instill so much knowledge, and that's why I incorporated into just this space that you do not have to accept fucking shit like that, okay? If they want to go ahead, yes, people out there will hurt you, okay? And it's because they're unhealed. They are not ready to face their trauma. They're not ready to face themselves, okay? And work on what they need to work on and spend some time being happy with themselves and stop blaming everything else, whether it's the economy, money, this and that, and actually say, you know what? I'm tired of my fucking shit. I need to do something about it. Because you cannot give anybody a second chance, nor should you, if there is no changed behavior. If they continue repeating the same pattern because the grass is greener, they're looking for somebody better, trust me, they're not going to find better. You were the one that was better. You were the one that the grass got greener because you were standing on it and it was being watered, okay? People seem to think, and that is the culture when it comes to dating and relationships nowadays, which we're not going to follow that stigma, okay? We have high standards, we have non-negotiables, okay? And we're not going to waver from healthy boundaries. And that's why I created this space. And you're thinking, Karina, this all came out of because of a man? Yes, because he showed me that I can be my highest, purest self. Not only am I fucking hot, but I look good too, okay? So because I have that confidence, and not only does my beauty radiate inside, because I've learned a lot about myself, I have taken the challenges. I've been through fucking pits of hell, and I have survived most things that people do not even want to work on, okay? And that's why I created the space for women, you that is listening, because you deserve better. You deserve a life that you're proud of. You deserve a life that is peaceful. You deserve a life that your nervous system is regulated and you don't have anybody emptying your cup, where you are filling your own cup and you're prioritizing yourself first. We are burning shit down to rise from the ashes, to be fierce and fucking just powerful and compassionate. Okay. That's why I created this space. Okay. It took a lot when I felt my entire world crash, because he was the peace, he was the safety, he was the calm to my nervous system and the quiet to my brain. And you know what? My intuition, I actually didn't want to meet him at all, at first, when I first met him. But my intuition was screaming is hey, let's give somebody a chance, because you don't know. And then as I got comfortable with this person, my intuition was this is safe. This is good. And I never ignore my gut, because it's always right. Do I think that my gut is still true to this day? Absolutely. And it doesn't matter that he moved on to somebody else, because you know what? At the end of the day, it's made me a fucking stronger powerhouse. And I walk with confidence and pride, knowing that, hey, I gave my all, and I showed up. And you know what? If it didn't work, it didn't work. So that is the reason why I created this space, because I know a lot of you women listening, this applies to you. And if this resonates you, make sure you subscribe and you follow along, because the episodes are just going to get juicier and juicier. Okay. If you are done being the good girl, being the people pleaser, being the fixer, being the one that stays quiet, being the one that's always seen but not heard, being the one that gets dismissed, being the one with partners that are not available emotionally and that just drain all your energy and you continue to feel empty. Welcome home, because this is your new home. So that is it for today's episode. So in next week's episode, I am going to talk about facing the shit that you are avoiding, okay? And how that does cost you, okay? So make sure you share this episode with somebody that needs to hear it. Make sure you like, subscribe to the podcast, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow me on TikTok as well. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will catch you guys in the next episode.